Hello everyone. Today we're going to talk about tritone substitution. First of all, let's start with what is a tritone. Well, a tritone is just a flatted fifth. Here's an interval of a fifth. Here's the tritone, flatted fifth. And I do think of it as a flatted fifth compared to a sharped fourth, just because, we deal with fifths a lot as piano players. Flatted fifths. It's kind of an interesting interval in that it spreads the octave out in two equal parts. Tritone, meaning 3 whole steps. Okay, it took me 3 whole steps to get there. 3 whole steps to get there. It's the exact halfway point between the octave. And it used to be referred to as the devil's interval because this interval is quite difficult to sing. So many of our traditions come out of vocal music, of course. So in fact, when you're writing parts for any kind of species counterpoint or anything like that, you avoid writing tritones in the individual voices because they're difficult to sing. They are present in music, though, in all kinds of ways that I will hopefully be just reminding you of. For example, if we have a C dominant 7th chord, our 2 most important chord tones are 3 and 7, and that interval happens to be a tritone. So they're present in music. It's also present in bass playing, which we can talk about when I talk a little further about how to utilize them in a chordal type of manner. So the first thing I recommend you do is flip over to your 251 exercise in fourths. And we want to first apply our tritone substitution to the 5 chords. So you can see here that I have made some notations in red going down the second column of the 5 chord. We generally use tritone substitution off of the 5 chord. So instead of having just our straight 2-5-1 progression, which sounds pretty great and pretty beefy with these rootless left-hand voicings, we can add another element of a stronger type of resolution, a chromatic resolution, by doing this. There's the tritone. If I put the bass in the bottom, so we can really get away. You can see that if we look at the sheet here, the tritone moves chromatically into the 1 chord. And we can get away with a lot in music if we move things chromatically. It's a very interesting sound. It increases that tension and makes the resolution quite dynamic and just stronger. It really pulls. You can hear, again, this is all the white keys as far as the key of C. Sounds nice. But if we add the tritone, there's the tritone. So we step out of the key signature for a minute to add these substitutions, and they add a lot of drama to our 2-5-1. The reason that they work are 2 reasons. First of all, it's chromatic. 2-5 tritone off the 5 into the 1. And we can, again, as I said, get away with a lot of things in music when we move chromatically. Remember, in jazz, we're only a half step away from a good note, so we use chromaticism a lot to create interest in music. Certainly if you're into Wagner and people of that era, the Romantic era in classical music, you are used to hearing these kinds of chromatic pulls where they extend the resolution a lot by adding chromaticism. The other reason, though, if we look at the 5 chord, which in this key I'm in the key of C, so it would be G7, in this case beefed up to G13. The 2 most important chord tones, 3rd of G, 7 of G, okay? 3rd and 7, we have to always keep the 3rds and 7s in mind. So we have this motion. If we look at the tritone, which is D flat, 7, the 3rd and the 7 are the same. Here's 3 and 7 of D flat. Here's 7 and 3 of G. The 2 most important chord tones are the same. So that way we can maintain the structure of the 3rds and 7s, and all we're really doing is adding these nice chromatic tones to resolve into the 1. Okay? Tritone substitution. If you flip over to your voicings pages, after your rootless voicings, there's a page called Altered Dominant Chords, Tritone Substitutions. So I would like you to read that. I did notice there's a mistake if you look at the A7 altered chord. It should have G natural on that first chord. Sorry about that. So I'm going to do a separate video talking about altered dominant chords, but you first should read this Tritone Substitutions and kind of get familiar with that. And then flip back over to your 251 page and write out all of your tritones off the 5 chord and then try to play through them. One important note here, we're not going to change any of our voicings. So this D flat that you play here should be voiced exactly the same way as you play it here. In other words, we're not adding any voicings. We're simply using our left-handed rootless voicings that we've been playing on this 251 page and sort of mixing them up a little bit. This G flat 13 will be voiced the same way you voice this F sharp 13. This B 13, which is the tritone, is going to be voiced the exact same way that you do it here. So we're not adding any voicings. We're simply mixing them up a little bit, which is really good for learning these rootless voicings and adding a really wonderful flair of drama to our 2 5s. Okay, so have some fun with those and watch the next video on altered dominant chords to continue this discussion.